holding the ankle of a beetle. Not just shaking his hand, but actually holding his ankle, fingers pressed against the skin, waiting for a pulse. And in that tiny rhythmic thrum against your fingertips, you don't just feel a heart rate. You feel the miles that person has walked, the songs they've written, the stress of fame, and the quiet hum of their kidney energy. That is a level of intimacy that most of us can't even comprehend. It sounds like a scene from a movie, but for my guest today, it was just a Tuesday. We often talk about abundance in this culture as metrics games. How many zeros in the bank account, how many cars in the garage, how many likes on the post. But what if abundance is actually about bandwidth? The bandwidth to feel the pulse of the world, literally and figuratively. Today, we are flipping the script on success. We're going from the high-speed chase of material wealth to the absolute stillness required to heal from stage 4 lung cancer. It is a wild ride. I'm Noah, and this is The Deep Dive.
It really is a wild ride, Noah. And honestly, that image of the ankle pulse is going to stick with me for a long time. Today, we are speaking with Dr. Robin Tim So. He is a veteran acupuncturist, a third-generation Australian of Chinese descent, and a man who has spent over 40 years bridging the gap between ancient Eastern wisdom and the frantic pace of modern Western life.
And when we say frantic, we aren't kidding. I was looking into his background, and the numbers are staggering. At the height of his career, he wasn't just a chill Zen master in a garden. He was running a machine.
Oh, absolutely. In the early days, Dr. Robin was seeing something like 200 patients a week. Just do the math on that. If you're working a 5-day week, that is 40 people a day. That is barely 10 minutes a person if you don't stop for lunch. He had a clinic running 4 rooms simultaneously.
That sounds like a factory, not a clinic. It sounds like the opposite of healing.
And that is exactly the wall he hit. You have to understand the context here. Robin grew up in North Queensland, in Townsville, back in the 70s and 80s. Now, Australia is a diverse place, but back then, in that specific region, he was one of the only Asian kids in his school. He talks about this feeling of profound otherness. When you feel that different, the natural human reaction is to overcompensate. You want to prove your worth through tangible, undeniable success.
So the high-volume clinic, the fast cars, he mentions being a car guy, that was all armor.
Precisely. It was armor. He equated abundance with winning. If I have the most patience, I win. If I have the nicest car, I win. And he did win by those metrics, but the craft, the actual art of acupuncture suffered. You can't deeply connect with someone's qi, their vital energy, if you're already thinking about the patient in room 3 while you're sticking a needle into the patient in room 1. He realized he was missing the magic. He was successful, but he wasn't abundant. And that distinction is the core of his philosophy now.
It's interesting you mentioned the magic or the craft, because I think a lot of people view acupuncture as either a placebo or just simple pain management, like my back hurts, stick a needle here. But Dr. Robin goes way deeper than that. Can we talk about the George Harrison story? Because that feels like the perfect example of this craft he was afraid of losing.
It is a beautiful story. So George Harrison, obviously the quiet beetle, was known for his interest in Eastern spirituality. When Dr. Robin treated him, he didn't just take the pulse at the wrist, which is what you might expect if you've been to a standard checkup. In traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, pulse diagnosis is an incredibly complex diagnostic tool. It's not just beats per minute. They're looking for qualities. Is the pulse wiry? Is it slippery? Is it thready? There are 28 distinct pulse qualities.
28? I thought it was just fast or slow.
No, it's a whole language, and Dr. Robin was checking George Harrison's ankle pulses. Specifically, this is often done at the Tai Chi point, which is located in the depression between the medial malleolus, that inner ankle bone, and the Achilles tendon. In TCM, this point is the source point of the kidney meridian. The kidneys are believed to store our jing, or our essence, our constitutional vitality. It's the battery pack of the human body.
So he's holding George Harrison's ankle, tapping into his battery pack. What did he find?
He wasn't just finding a medical diagnosis. He said that when he touched those pulses, the thought that rushed into his mind was, Where have these feet traveled? He felt the magnitude of the life lived. He felt a connection that dissolved the barrier between doctor and celebrity patient. It was just two souls connected through touch. That moment of oneness is what he calls true abundance. It's not about owning the Beatles catalog. It's about connecting with the human being who wrote the songs.
That is profound. It shifts the definition of wealth from accumulation to connection. But this philosophy wasn't just tested in the clinic, it was tested in the fire, right? Because Robin's story takes a very dark turn in 2020.
It does. And this is where the rubber meets the road. You can talk about flow and energy all you want when you're healthy, but in 2020, Dr. Robin was diagnosed with stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer. Now, for context, according to data from the American Cancer Society and other oncological bodies, the 5-year survival rate for distant stage 4 NSCLC is often in the single digits, around 7 to 9%. It is a diagnosis that usually tells people to start saying their goodbyes.
And he had never been sick before, right? 63 years old, totally healthy, a healer by trade, and suddenly he's got a terminal diagnosis.
Exactly. And this is where his concept of illness as a lesson comes in. Now, we have to be careful here, Noah. There is a tendency in the wellness world to victim blame, to imply that you manifested your cancer with bad thoughts. That is not what Dr. Robin is saying. He's saying that the illness presented a curriculum. It forced him to stop everything. He had to face his own mortality and apply 44 years of knowledge to his own body.
So what did he do? Did he reject Western medicine?
No, and that's what I love about his approach. He is pragmatic. He used integrative care, Western medicine to buy time, and Eastern practices to build the environment for healing. He talks about the body's natural default being health. If you cut your finger, you don't have to concentrate to make it heal. It just does. His job was to remove the obstacles, stress, toxicity, fear, so his body could return to that default setting. He went into remission. He essentially graduated from the lesson.
That phrase, medicine buys you time, is really sticking with me. It's like the chemotherapy or the radiation holds the door open, but you have to be the one to walk through it and change the furniture inside the house.
That's a brilliant analogy, and part of changing that furniture was letting go of the need for validation. He mentioned that before the cancer, even in his later years, he was still checking his social media stats. How many likes did this post get? How is the algorithm treating me? After facing stage 4 cancer, the algorithm feels incredibly small. He realized that true influence isn't about numbers, it's about authenticity.
He actually had a really funny take on AI in the future, which I didn't expect from an acupuncturist. He quoted Elon Musk.
He did. He referenced that famous sentiment where Musk was asked about the dangers of AI. And Musk essentially said he'd rather be alive to see the apocalypse than be dead and miss it. Dr. Robin has a similar view. He said the party is just getting started. Despite the wars, the political polarization, the scary technology, he wants to be here. He sees this era not as a disaster, but as a massive transition point for human consciousness.
That is such a reframing. Usually when we talk about the future, especially with AI, it's all doom and gloom, P.doom probabilities and job losses. But he sees it as, what, a spiritual event?
He sees it as the cracking open of the old shell. He believes that we are moving from a world of competition, that 200 patients a week mindset, to a world of kindness and authenticity. He thinks the systems based on ego are collapsing, and what's left will be people just being who they are. If you strip away the need to survive at all costs, what's left is connection. He calls it heaven on earth, but not in a religious sense. He means realizing that we are already in the universe. We aren't separate from it.
I want to circle back to something he said about kindness being the new currency. It sounds nice on a bumper sticker, but how does that actually work in practice? Because the world feels pretty unkind right now.
It does, but Robin argues that is because we are looking at the macro level too much.
Abundance happens in the micro interactions. He gave this example of walking into a coffee shop. If you are in a state of flow and love, if your internal frequency is calibrated correctly, you change the room. You treat the barista differently, they treat the next customer differently. It's the butterfly effect of emotional regulation. He believes that we have the power to create a microclimate of heaven wherever we go.
So if you're grumpy and rushing, you create a microclimate of hell.
Exactly. And we've all been that person. We've all stood in line, tapping our foot, checking our phone, annoyed that the person in front of us is ordering a complex latte. That is a poverty mindset. That is scarcity. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough patience. Abundance is standing in that line and having the bandwidth to just be present, to maybe smile at someone, to not be in a rush. That is true wealth.
It's ironic, isn't it? We spend 40 years working to get rich so we can relax, but the ability to relax and be present was available to us the whole time for free.
That is the great cosmic joke. And sometimes it takes a cosmic 2x4 to the head, like a cancer diagnosis, to make you stop laughing and start listening. Dr. Robin mentioned that he felt George Harrison's soul in his ankle, but he also said he can feel that same connection looking at an animal in a zoo or a dog on the street. It's about recognizing the life force in everything. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you see it, you can't really be cruel to it because you realize it's just another version of you.
That brings us to the concept of the God within. He was careful to distinguish this from religion.
Right. He isn't pushing dogma, he's talking about a resonance. If you look at the history of acupuncture and Taoism, it's all about the Tao, the way, the natural flow of the universe. When he puts a needle in, he isn't adding anything to the body. He isn't injecting a drug. He's simply manipulating the body's own energy to get it back into alignment in a sense. The healing comes from the inside, not the needle.
It's empowering, but also terrifying, because if the healing comes from inside, that means the responsibility is inside too.
It is extreme ownership, and that is why Robin says many people are stubborn. He sees patients who are stuck in their life cycles, just like he was stuck in his car collecting phase, and he can't force them to change. He can only offer the insight. He said, I get a kick out of seeing where people are at. He doesn't judge it, he just observes it. Oh, you're in your accumulation phase. Good luck with that. Let me know when you're ready for the letting go phase.
I love that. It's respectful of the journey. You can't skip the chapters. You probably needed to be the arrogant guy with the fast car to become the wise elder with the slow pulse.
You can't skip the chapters, Noah. That is it. And now, in his late 60s, Robin is in his joy of living chapter. He says his greatest abundance now is just the fact that he is breathing. After stage 4 cancer, every breath is a luxury item. He doesn't need the validation. He doesn't need the 200 patients. He just needs to flow.
It really makes you rethink the goals we set for ourselves. We're all sprinting toward a finish line, but guys like Dr. Robin are standing on the sidelines telling us that the race is actually a dance, and we're missing the music.
And the music is playing inside our own ankles if we just stop to feel it.
Eloise, this has been a trip from Townsville to the Beatles to the oncology ward. It's a reminder that the human body is resilient, but the human spirit is practically indestructible if you give it the right environment. Dr. Robin Tim So is proof that you can rebuild your life from the cellular level up, as long as you're willing to stop counting the external wins and start feeling the internal rhythm.
Kenneth had said it better. It's about being kind to yourself so you can be kind to the world.
If you know someone who is running that 200 patient a week race and needs to slow down, or someone navigating a tough health battle who needs a new perspective on healing, send them this episode. It might just be the pause they need.